Hi, this is Patrick Barrera, and I have a training for you today on how to export data that's in your Teacher Access Center and put it into a spreadsheet where you've got everything you need from student usernames to student passwords. If you need to get to Teacher Access Center from home, don't forget that you can always go to ePortal, scroll on down to the bottom, and Teacher Access Center from home. So once you've got that open, you're going to go into each one of your classrooms and you're going to highlight everything from the header down to the bottom row. You can ignore the header after you get the first one in there, but you just want to have it for certainly for the first one. Control C, you can copy, or you can just right click on there and copy, and then we're going to paste. This is a formatted paste. It's the only way that I noticed that you can get the birthday to paste in correctly. And just keep in mind that your headers are white text, which is why you don't see them. And we'll fix that in a minute. And then just so we can keep it tidy, I'm just going to use two sets of data. Paste that in, and there you go. For the rest of this demonstration, I'm just going to use fake data that I created earlier. And if you'll notice, after you do the pasting, you're going to have to clean up the formatting a little bit, so I just highlight everything. Change the font to Calibri. Font size will be 11, it's pretty common. And the text color to Reset. And you'll notice that your header comes in nice and clean. You'll want to delete the top row, that blank row, and then you can always resize your columns. Okay. Last thing I want to do is remove the border. Sometimes it can be distracting. So if you see here, everything's nice and clean. And let's begin. So first thing I want to do is just sort of minimize everything that's there. I'm going to Control F, go to Find, and we're going to find female. Sorry. And we're going to hit the dot, dot, dot. We're going to replace it with F. Replace all. Choose yes. You're done. Or you can actually go and do the male now. These are just ways of just tidying up your data so you don't have extraneous, extra, and just to make the columns as narrow as possible. Okay. Go to your homeroom, right click it, clear the column, and we can actually call that one, rename that to B Day. Okay, here's where you go ahead, you're going to use your first formula. Go to the Formulas tab, copy this formula here. It's got data in there, but really it's just a formula. I just want you to see that. Escape. Okay, we're going to paste that in right there, and you'll notice it takes the date format from the right column and puts it into a 10-digit birthday that we're going to use later. Paste that all the way down. One thing I notice is that just sometimes your formatting gets lost. I just want to go ahead and change that to plain text. the next little trick we're going to do is we're going to take this entire column, and if you'll notice the names are combined. Last name first, first name last, and middle name. What we're going to use is highlight the whole column, and we're going to go to Data, split text into columns, and the detected automatically is fine. Resize that column, and what you'll notice is you've got your last name in this row, which we're going to rename, and your first name in this row. First name, actually it's first name middle. What we're going to want to do is move that over so it's in natural order, first name, middle name, last name. Okay, resize that real quick. Keep everything tidy. Okay, now we're going to add a row or a column for username and one for password. Okay, so the username is going to consist of the first character in the first name column and the first character in the last name column, and it's going to be the lowercase version of those. That formula is here. Oops. And in the formula, just so you can see it, it's actually using the lowercase version of the farmost left character. And so you just want to make sure that this column here is correct for your first name. This column here is correct for your last name. That this column here contains an ID number. And then what you see at the end is just the email domain that's pasted in at the end. Okay, paste that all the way down. Just double check, you know, this is Brian Azua, and that's BA with the ID number. Okay, let's go back to the formula page, and we're going to get the formula for password. Pretty simple. Paste that in. If you see something weird that comes out here, just double check the column A is where your first name is, and column B is where your last name is, and that column F is where your 10-digit birthday is. And then you didn't lose the pound sign at the end. That's why earlier what we did is we made this into text, because sometimes it drops that first character if it thinks it's a number. Paste that all the way down, and essentially you're done. So what I like to do too, just for management purposes, is I like to insert to the left a column for it's kind of like a roster number, and I do this. Let's start with this one. We call that roster, or sometimes just student numbers. And just make sure the last person in that row gets a label, and then the ones that are below it, you can just highlight them and delete cells and shift the other cells up. That way that this is the beginning of the second group. And that just kind of makes it easier, especially if you're assigning workstations or Chromebooks to students, that you can always you know, do a sort by that column there, and it's real nice and clean. Last thing you want to do is, you've got all this information that is dependent on other cells. So it looks right, but really these are just formulas with variables inside. So what you want to do is you want to copy the whole thing. If you select this top left-hand corner. It highlights everything. Control C or copy, and then you're going to Control V, Shift Control V, which is basically you're pasting the values only. So what you're looking at on the spreadsheet is what you're pasting back in, not any of the formulas. After you've done that, it's basically printed out. It's the way it's going to be. If you select here, you'll notice this is now sort of codified in that cell. It's not a variable anymore, which is great, because, and in this one should stay as it was, but just to double check, I'm going to make sure that that is plain text. Yes, it is. I can actually delete this format birthday if I want. I don't need both, so you delete whichever one you want to delete, whatever makes the most sense to you. And then you can just be real minimal with the headers, so that you can make these columns as narrow as possible. Because when you have this much data, you want to be able to see the entire column from left to right. It just makes it easier. Now what you have here is all the passwords where it's based on their initials and their birthday and the pound sign. And here, even though you can get this information from the student drawer in Teacher Access Center, right now teachers can't export this information, so you need sort of like a tool to have that readily available. What I can do later is, if I'm changing, let's say I go into Access Request Management, which is where you change passwords. I copy this username, I do a search for it, and then I find the student, and I select Change Password. Actually, I can just highlight the cell, copy that cell, and paste it into the password twice. You know, it wants it twice, and then it's done. And I'll just show you real quick what the cloud looks like and where you go. So here it's where your apps are, Access Request Management, and like I said, you find that student. Sorry, that's not the student. This is a fake data student, so it shouldn't show up in my role. Sorry. But I would just search for it here, and then when it comes up, I can choose change password, and then I'll be able to copy paste from this cell here. And what I was able to do is go through my entire roster pretty quickly. You know, if you consider how many students, you know, it could be 130 students. You could probably knock it out in about an hour, optimistically, but I didn't do it all in one sitting, so it wasn't too bad. So in the Schoology course, there's going to be all the resources that you need. You can come back to those. Some of them you can download, but I hope you found this this video helpful, and also my goal was for you to, in the end, have a spreadsheet with your students, and you can name it, you know, 2018, 2019, you know, school year, and use that throughout the year with your students, so that, you know, if another teacher changes that student's password to something like ABC123, and you want all of your students to have secure passwords, well, you can go back in and change that one student back to the way it's supposed to be, which is, you know, with their initials, the birthday, and the pound sign. So hopefully by the end of this video you have something in your hand, something workable, some kind of resource like this, and it's got your students and their particular usernames and passwords, and you can use that just to manage your class with Google Classroom or Schoology, or just getting into Docs. You know, if you're going into a lab and unlocking a computer, you'll have to tell the students that it's just going to be this first part, this prefix, or it will not have the email domain as their username. I'm also using files like this to export CSV files into different programs so that I can create accounts for students in, let's say, programs that aren't being managed through Aldine ISD. And if you ever need to do that, you can just download this whole thing as a, oh, I did the wrong one. You can download this whole file from, Google Sheets as a comma separated value, and then it'll work with you on where to put that. Thanks again. Hope this video is helpful for you.